All right, welcome back everyone to another episode of Banking Reinvented, the podcast for changemakers. And today we're going to be joined by a true innovator in our space. And in this case we have Nuno Sebastião with us, the co-founder and CEO of Feedzai. Nuno, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You flew out all the way from Paris this morning,
Yes,
I believe.
Very true.
There we go. We'll talk about that later. Just to give you a bit of color, he has a background as an engineer for the European Space Agency. That is also interesting to double click on. And has a big passion for using AI to fight fraud worldwide, as he is leading the charge in protecting financial institutions from ever-evolving threats. So today the podcast is going to be circled around AI, fraud prevention, and how do you apply this at scale. And very keen to hear your learnings in building Feedzai, which of course is addressing that specifically. Next to Nuno, we have Jouk, CEO and founder of Backbase. Good to see you again, Jouk.
Likewise. Good to see everybody.
And maybe before we start off, first of all, you're flying out today to be here at the podcast. I really, really respect that because you're a busy man.
Yeah,
I
appreciate it, man.
But perhaps before we kick into the actual topics, tell me a little bit about the Feedzai journey.
So, look, first of all, thank you for having me. It's always good to be, here with you guys as a partner and we'll talk about it later. But the point is, we started Feedzai, bunch of engineers, and we came at it as what you'd call a data problem. Looking at data and how could we organize it and understand it. We didn't even come from the space, so we didn't know about banking or let alone fraud. We built a piece of technology back in 2010 based on our prior experience, space agency and other places, that could just process large data sets and then start to derive patterns of behavior. And like any startup, you spend years trying to understand what can I use this for? Who will pay me for this?
Yeah.
And at the same time, you had the emergence or the shift of people going to counters and going to branches of banks to the emergence of mobile. And how do you deal with payment? How do you deal with banking in a mobile world or in a far more dynamic world? And, we realized through a lot of testing interactions that we could apply this technology to payments, and in particular at the time to transaction monitoring. We weren't experts, so we, like any entrepreneur or everyone that's trying to build something, we started to hire people and then build a company around that. And then, of course, as we matured, to give you some stats, we're about 800 people in the company, and selling and doing what we do across the globe, we started to understand how does risk look like holistically as, for financial institutions. So it's a journey, it's an evolution of a company, but at the core, we are scientists and we are engineers. And that shapes, when we talk about AI and machine learning, we have AI in the name of the company. And the company's been around since 2010 because we saw at the time, not the generations of AI you have today, but other generations that I'll talk about. How could these techniques be used to understand these patterns and these behaviors within data sets? And then you build a company, as you guys do yourself as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks for the introduction.
So the original story is like you had to find product market fit, right? You basically
It took me
had
4 years.
technology in search of the problem, and then you found it.
It took me 4 years.
Yeah.
And here's, as we're talking, to a diverse audience, let's say, one of the things that was very insightful was in 2012, I moved to the US, and there was someone that invested and said, here's $2 million. Of all the stuff you're doing, pick one and, run with that. And I knocked on so many doors at that time. And then, coincidentally, the guys at Capital One, probably one of the most innovative banks out there, they saw the technology. They realized that we weren't from around here, in the sense that we were not from the banking world, but they realized that we were solving a very deep technical problem. So in the span of, I would say, 6 months or so, we went from not having any business in the US and basically say, okay, I'm going to go back, to having them, First Data as well, as very large clients, and they even became investors in the company. And then, then you tune the business. But, it took us a while to get product market fit.
And that was kind of that first use case and that visionary buyer in a way. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
I recognize that, Jouk, but that's for another moment.
Yeah, it's a different podcast. Yeah. Right.
Hey, then kicking off the format of the podcast, I would typically ask the guest, what is currently top of mind for you that is either in the news or that you really, have top of mind as the leader of your domain in this case?
So top of mind right now for me, and this is actually reflects in a way in how we structure the company. I have a group of people that whose sole job is to put us out of business before someone else does. So what's their job? And it's two different types of people. Some very technical, led by my co-founder Pedro, that runs what we call very deep research, looking 3 years, 5 years into the future, and inventing that so that if someone else doesn't, or if someone else doesn't put us out of business. And then on the product side, led by one of the most brilliant minds we have in the company, Andy Renshaw and others, would basically look at how is banking evolving. So right now, I sit at the intersection of how this new wave of machine learning affect us. It manifests itself in things like deepfakes. And how do we deal with that? That's going to be a problem for years. Yeah. But on the other end, with all of what you're seeing in changes in payment mechanisms, how does that affect trust and balances some of the regulations, in Europe that we have more restrictive or less, and how do we keep trusting the system that allows us to buy what we do every day and transact? It's those two. So that on one hand, the technical impact, on the other hand, how is the business dynamics changing? Be it by external forces such as geopolitical dynamics, be it by internal forces, new entrants in the market that are disrupting more established financial providers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perhaps to structure the dialogue from here, if you look at the inception of Feedzai and the capabilities that you bring to market, let's say 10 years ago it was all about digital transformation. Like we now have a mobile app, we might have a platform, and you're seeing certain activity in your channels that you need to monitor. And then there's a use case clearly for a player like Feedzai. If you fast forward all the way to today, it seems like there's an exponential challenge that any institution will have with fighting of, let's say, AI-driven fraud, deepfakes, synthetic identities. Like there's a whole range of new challenges, I believe, that are there. Maybe you see different chapters so far in the journey that also for the audience gives a bit of feel to what has been the pace and how do you see it evolve?
So that's a great point. Absolutely. So let's go in 5-year chunks, just to simplify.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's do that.
So 2010 to 2015, it was mobile. So it was essentially doing the same thing, but with a new channel, right? So how do you protect that channel? Yeah. That's where things like behavioral biometrics came into play and us understanding the payments of that specific channel. Then people realize, or financial institutions realize, oh, this is multi-channel and multi-environment. So how do you look at it holistically? But then they started to realize, oh, we're now not only moving the existing clients we had into an app, we're onboarding an entire new generation, an entire new segments without ever knowing them. Oh, account opening and onboarding. So we migrated about 2018-19 to what is the journey of risk and how does it mimic or follow the journey of a client in a financial institution, from what you'd classify as account opening or onboarding. So we've broken it down into 3 areas that we serve today. Identity solutions. What are our identity solutions? How do we verify identity? It's not a transaction anymore.
No.
Because before it was, the person was the person.
Yeah.
Because they were physically in the branch.
Because they were physical, So now it's identity. How do you know it's you that is actually opening that account or applying for that service? So that became a big part of what we do. You still have, then once you're in the system, how do you behave? And then over the last years, we saw, I'm going to call it, for lack of a better word, what is classically known as AML, But I do want to put out, especially for the audience, that it's not the AML as we classically think about it. AML as we classically think about it is compliance. Today is different, is how do we understand on a continuous that an account, a transaction or a set of transactions are actually not being used for fraudulent purposes, as opposed to just a compliance paper-based exercise. So the world's changing. And then before, it was quote unquote fairly costly to commit and to perpetrate these bad activities.
To actually find them.
To actually do it.
To do it.
So someone had to steal your card.
There you go.
Someone had to scheme your card.
Yeah.
Today, there are massive factories that build businesses around committing these activities because it's cheap. You produce a deep fake, you send a phishing email, you create synthetic IDs. It's very cheap.
So the bad actors are scaling.
Because the cost enabled by the same technology we use is now, it's not free, but it's tending towards free. So it's just, so they can even afford to become more sloppy in a way, so less sophisticated, and just play a numbers game. Call it a brute force. And this is what we're seeing right now. How do we adapt? In my world, this leads to a convergence, to a fusion, some people call, of risk management, even with cybersecurity as a whole. Because you're seeing these two worlds combining. What does that mean for companies like us? I think it's exciting because it means you're going to have to build different products to address what is now a mass activity of creating digital impersonations, creating digital attempts. I can today create a website that looks like your local telecom in whatever country in minutes. I can create a replica of that website and then tell someone, oh, you didn't pay your, phone account. Click here. And most people do, right? That's cheap. That's a challenge we have.
So if we then go to the, let's say, the onboarding part, right? There's all the face recognition, etc. Now we have you cannot trust voice anymore, you said, right? Or you cannot trust video potentially down the road. We go back to the branch?
That's a challenge. That's the point. Is like, how do we, so now it's interesting. It seems that you see some of the evolutions on this. Yeah. They tell you, put your face like that, put your face like that, do this, make sure that you put the phone and then the phone emits some color so that they can actually real time. Yeah. That is horrible experience.
Well, it works.
It feels safe.
But it feels safe. Yeah, sure. But so I don't know what it means in terms of, and I think being an optimist, the industry is figuring it out as we go.
What trends do you see? Like, what are the emerging bets where you think, like, hey, those are interesting ways to counter-fight it, counter-attack it?
A lot more, and this is something I think, you guys can play, a lot more, what you'd call, the dream has always been mass personalization. The bank knowing enough about me that if someone is trying to impersonate me, they already know there's no way Nuno would be doing that. Whatever financial issue, whatever client, they don't know enough about me or any of us to say, that's not you opening that account. Because then you wouldn't even need to do, facial recognition. Some people are solving it in different ways. Some countries, and you guys also have a global exposure. Some countries basically say, this is the mandated approach here. Nothing else is recognized.
Yeah, so government-led.
Singapore is a good example.
Like every individual citizen has a certificate.
A national ID.
And then that's kind of, you have to prove that face-to-face, but from that moment, the banks, the telcos.
That's exactly it. So that's an initiative I've seen. I still think that's a bit intrusive. So I don't think we're going to go back to the physical branch per se, but a way or a token, and we're talking about, where do things like, mechanisms or rails, like based on crypto technologies that could be used for someone. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But what I do know is we need to have a representation of us, of a mapping of one-to-one that we control as individuals, so it's ours.
Exactly.
That is ours. But that is quote unquote accepted as our identity. That doesn't exist today. I mean, some countries are doing it, but it's still small scale.
Yeah.
How do we do it at scale? I don't know.
No, like if we talk to our clients and like some of the major problem clusters we see, one is we're onboarding thousands, if not more, fake identities into the system. And that's a major, I've seen examples where people have to shut down the service.
Yep.
So clearly, let's say, how do we help banks then also today, but in the future, with the onboarding, given the fact that it is so easy to onboard like hundreds of thousands of whatever. Maybe we can start there. What's your view on that? What is the next chapter? Or maybe what is the state of the technology today? How is that going to be disrupted? How are you guys working on the next wave to fight that?
Is the technology today there that could mitigate that?
Yeah.
So the answer is yes. Is the technology deployed at scale that mitigates that? No. Because then in my world, I'm not sure in yours, the deployment and the rollout of these approaches, and especially these newer ones, people in financial organizations, depends on the regions, but I find that they're still too concerned and too afraid, like, oh, I don't know, because the bad guys are moving so fast. And they are, I don't know, I need to do an RFP, it's going to take a year, I don't know who's plays. Maybe I would even put that most of them are frankly just not up to date enough. They just don't know enough.
So that's also maybe to the audience, like the solution is there today. And of course the current solutions are being attacked, but like maybe first kind of get into the first line of the current generation of technology.
I'll give you an empirical example.
Yeah.
In North America, there is a widely, fairly known issue in one of the networks that even demanded, the attention of Congress. All of that is, information. That is public information.
Yeah, public domain.
So I feel that the industry talks a lot about the problems. I question, has it been felt already on the bottom line that changes a way of deploying these systems?
Yeah.
Probably not, because otherwise they would be doing it.
Yeah.
And my concern is, if these systems are unchecked, will they become a problem faster than what we can then solve it?
It's an interesting point,
I don't know.
It's an interesting point, because if the problem is recognized and it's widely discussed, and it's always interesting to discuss problems, but there's no activity against fixing it, clearly it's not big enough of a problem. Right? Or there's not sufficient regulation to actually crack down on it and get movement. And it's unlikely that North America is now in the, let's say, situation where regulations are going to become stronger on this. I'm not sure if you recognize this from your conversation.
So it all depends on what are your incentives.
Yep.
Do you have more a short-term view, or you have a longer-term view? That all plays. So that's the business side that plays into this. So there's on one end, the attacks that are being perpetrated and the money that's being lost. We can quantify it. We measure it. But then it all depends who's responsible ultimately for those losses. If it's not the institutions, like for instance what happened in the UK with the shift of liability, that led to massive changes. When you don't have that, people would argue, well, but I'm just the pipes, so I'm not the one losing the money.
Yeah.
Is the consumer, or is someone else, a merchant? A lot of dynamics there.
Got it. We just talked mostly about the first 5 years of the journey. Let's go to the second chapter. Let's say what followed from the mobile channel coming to life and needing to tackle that challenge.
It was this. So after the initial mobile channel, it was basically managing risk end to end. That's what I was telling you about, the onboarding, account opening. So we actually split our products, identity solutions, transaction monitoring, and AML. And I believe that the next phase, so we're executing on that plan right now, but I'm looking into the future, and I believe it will be around what I call fusion. Fusion is cybersecurity and risk management are going to merge. They're two entities or two aspects of the same reality. We largely work on the same data. So when you see that at the ground level, you see, okay, you're processing some of the same information. It's natural that these industries will converge, because I believe that's the only way holistically you can actually protect, consumers. An example pointing case is, how do you detect if a mobile terminal has been compromised or not? A lot of it is cybersecurity, but a lot of it is the behavior of the person as they do payments or transactions. You need both indicators.
Yeah.
So I think we're at the infancy of that. Some of our partners are working on that convergence. Like, can I partner, with Feedzai? So some cybersecurity vendors. Can I partner with Feedzai and take their data and augment what I'm seeing here?
Yeah.
Conversely, we are taking some data from some cybersecurity vendors and augmenting and using it to augment the signals that we see.
So you get a more complete picture, so to say, right? Yeah.
I mean, basically, we're monitoring, everything from terminals to from nodes, the networks, equipments, all the way up to the behavior of the people using the system, as opposed to just look at, oh, you sent 10 euros to you. That, okay. But if I have all the information that it was used, I can easily understand, okay, this was a man-in-the-middle attack, or this was an hijack, or this was someone impersonating you. And I think we started as an industry, but we're far away from actually doing that.
That will be my next point, because if you bring this to an actual executive dialogue, I guess buying into it theoretically is like, yeah, I would love that. I would love to bring cybersecurity and my anti-money laundering, my risk management under one single umbrella, so it really, looks wall to wall almost. But it's probably not easy to do this. When it comes to actual implementation, deployment, getting scale,
so different organizations, different levels of maturity. As an example, we just came from earlier today. We're at one of our, let's say, known partners, ABN. The fraud and risk management there is under the CISO. That's a very smart move. The Chief Information Security Officer. He works with us, but he also works with the tools that secure. It was one of the first organizations to do that. I know of a number in the UK that have merged those two functions. On this one, I actually believe Europe is a little bit more advanced than what I see in North America, but I would say that's a trend. These two are merging.
It's interesting insight.
And aside under a CISO.
Yeah, so that's on the organizational modeling. So then you have them combined. But technology-wise, it basically means everything needs to be stitched together somehow, or you need to be part of a complete platform almost to get that signal, I imagine.
And that does not exist today. I mean, I know of very little cybersecurity vendors that natively integrate with risk management vendors. That realization and the inbound we're getting now to partner from some of those, even people that were historically equipment vendors that have cybersecurity solutions, they want to go up in the stack of knowledge. Because think about it, if you're a network or a hardware vendor or a router or equipment or terminals, there's information going by. You don't know about accounts. You don't have the concept of what is an account, of what is a user, what is a transaction. So you're looking at, there's a cyber attack, a DDoS as an example, but you don't know to what effect. Combining the two, you can understand to what effect are we trying to do this. Okay? So this is what I see as a roadmap, if you want to put it, on everyone's side, on the customers, so let's say on the clients, of the financial institutions. These two will inevitably have to merge, but also on us as tool creators and tool vendors of how do we play in this reality. And me personally, that's what fascinates me, because then it allows you to say, well, your product needs to be ahead of that reality. Then you have to make bets.
You have to work towards that target state.
And then have a thesis and bet on that thesis.
To me, the thesis is very similar to the Backbase thesis, as in bringing it all together. Whichever line of business, whichever part of the customer life cycle. The only way to do it appropriately and get real results, because that's why you would do it to begin with, is to bring it all together. And to me, that's also a bit of it's clearly a organizational decision. How do you align the functions? How do you make sure that you have?
You guys have a name for it. I actually forgot.
Grand Central.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we indeed do have an integration layer where you bring everything together.
Yeah, Grand Central. That's exactly it. I was like,
Yeah, it's the integration platform as a service where literally you drive all the connectivity for your channels through one single layer, which then powers your platform, which powers your channels, your API strategy, and the ecosystem around it.
Yeah.
But then again, if I would explain that full value proposition, it's a great value proposition, but to really implement it, the business around it needs to fully buy into it. The execution needs to be there. You should start maybe in a small patch, but scale up over time to get the real benefit of it. So maybe that's the next good topic to tap into. What type of culture needs to be in place to drive the change that you would be looking for from your angle? And I think also, Jouk, you can comment. What's the type of culture you would see from the Backbase angle?
I still wonder, like most, I see a lot of tendency where people basically have a little problem and they duct tape it or they fix it with a point solution. I think also, I don't know, do you see the same thing? Like in your portfolio?
A lot.
You can have a very holistic view.
But it's hard, and then dynamics come into play, leaders, executives, all those things.
Yeah.
And we know an output. That's why I personally like to work with people and with leaders that have a clear vision and they relentlessly execute to it.
Yeah.
Knowing that they might not be right all the time.
Yeah. I think, Tim, to your question also, Nuno, maybe you can comment. Like, I recently spoke with a bank where they have 3,000 people in fraud and financial crime prevention. So it's basically the operations team of the bank, and they probably have all the tools. They've got a lot of headcount. So I'm very curious to see how we can get operational efficiency there, because in a lot of cases, I think the dots are not per se connected. There's like 5 different onboarding solutions. There's the application logic and the workspace for the different workers are not per se connected. So you can inject capabilities here and there, but then it's kind of solving it, let's say, in retail onboarding, but the rest is not taken care of. So I don't know. Do you recognize that? So the way I'm kind of introducing this is that the demand we see emerging is people say, actually, the thing is we need to do end-to-end workflows. Yeah. We need to basically connect the end customer, the prospect, then to the front office, then to the operations teams, and who's providing the workflow, the signal, etc. And also, how do we outsource work actually to technology, to Agentic AI, or how do we outsource to the customer so the customer can do it? And then, of course, how do we make sure that the customer is actually the customer, right? But maybe back to the core question is like that end-to-end orchestration. Do you see that, or maybe not?
I see it wholeheartedly. Some of my best partners out there, they went on that journey and over years. But it's a journey that you really have to commit to. It takes years.
And with partners, you mean your clients, your banking.
When I say my partners, it's because we go on this journey together.
Yep.
And what we see is we say, okay, where do we start? You got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
True.
It could be a use case, a channel.
Yeah.
And then as you build trust, and that's an important element.
Yeah.
No one is going to give, any vendor the quote unquote the farm just like that. You got to build it. You got to earn it.
Totally.
So what I define with them is this is the vision and the roadmap. We start here. It could be account opening. It could be transaction monitoring for one channel. But the roadmap has to be over years. Okay, then we move these channels, but we got to do it.
Yeah.
What I see sometimes, unfortunately, is there's leadership changes, there's a reorg, whatnot, and then you end up in that scenario we're describing where for these 2 channels, we use the legacy solution. For these other one, we use another solution. For these ones, we're on a migration path.
Yeah.
And guess what? Fraudsters actually use that to their advantage because they know that most likely these solutions don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
So I put to these leaders, first have a thesis as opposed to just plugging a water hole with your finger. Or duct tape. Have a thesis. Then commit to a multi-year execution, knowing that in today's dynamics is it's harder.
That's harder.
And then you execute to it. That is and I've been fortunate enough to have been on a number of those journeys. Those were the ones where you really see the value.
Yeah.
If you don't move as an organization from the plethora of point solutions, your costs are going to be high because you're going to be paying for essentially the same work 4 or 5 different vendors. Your results are going to be poor because if you as a consumer interact via, let's say, the app, you're going to get a different experience than if you interact by the website. And this happens. And you wonder as a consumer, why am I getting a different experience?
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Right?
I think like there's always this difference between like what does the ideal world look like, and then you realize the world is not ideal, so we're back in reality, right? So one of the things we've seen is kind of that really works well is kind of basically say there's this notion of progressive modernization, and you can follow the customer life cycle. You can say, okay, let's first solve onboarding, then we go into servicing, then we can go into the human assist, and then like once these things of course all correlate. And then you can potentially see if you can do cross and upsell, and you can drive expansion. Yeah. But you're basically now, for instance, with the Backbase platform, is the unification is let's bring those 4 building blocks together in a platform. They are composable and modular, so we're not forcing anyone. You can basically choose where you start. And it's very interesting because in all of these journeys, if it's in onboarding or if it's in servicing or in assisting, or actually in origination and more share of wallet. Basically, the trust layer, the fraud prevention, the crime fighting, in all these layers, it's happening in multiple journeys. So you basically need to plug it in, but it's kind of almost like journey by journey. Yes. And then, of course, you also, if you the more you kind of start to fix kind of these different, let's say, processes, you do it on a single platform, and you are also supporting multiple actors on one platform. So the prospect, the customer, the relationship manager, the advisor, CSRM, and everybody in the operations team, right? I think there's a roadmap to do, and that's also I think why our companies are working quite nicely together, because you can basically unplug these capabilities per journey and you activate them in the right context.
And this is what you mentioned something that I think is really important. Sometimes people don't understand enough, or they talk in composable in a world that is highly regulated. We operate in a world that is highly regulated. Of course, is what I was saying earlier. You know, quote unquote, the solution, but reality prevents you from deploying it just like that.
You know the target state theoretically.
Exactly. So you need to start. Okay, do I start with digital trust on the identity side? Do I start? In some cases, this will be the best start. What I always think is what is important is to do that wherever you want to start. If you're a CISO in a financial institution, but do it as part of a vision and of a strategy that is simple. You have as homogeneous as you can of a processing layer upon which you then build solutions or use cases for the different channels and different parts of the journey of a customer. One of the things we've done years ago, so in the second phase, let's say,
second bucket.
The second bucket was, let's stop talking about transaction monitoring in isolation. Because historically, what people would do back then was, I received a transaction and I'm going to detect if it's fraud or not. I'm like, how do you know? You check the amount. You have to have context. So we started to want to build that context. And that's why we came to this, risk ops strategies. Like, it's this, make it a function of the consumer, of the person or company you are serving. Banks serve banks don't serve transactions. They serve customers that want to do things, buy, sell, whatever, right? So if you make it as a function of the consumer, then you'll realize that the consumer has different safety needs. From onboarding, transaction, compliance, whatnot. So make it as a function of that and make it transparent.
Totally.
So you basically kick it up a notch. You don't look at the individual transaction or the individual activity in the channel. It's at the entity
and
of
that means
a customer.
Augment. So for instance, one of the things in our partnership is, can we take the data that you guys have let's say more CRM type of level,
Yeah.
and use
Engagement
that
data, behavioral data.
to augment.
Totally.
That would inform for better decisions. This is what I see.
No, absolutely. It's the same with kind of what you mean with the cybercrime. They've
Yeah.
got a data set. You guys have a data set. A digital platform has a
exactly it.
very significant data set. Yeah, and it comes together. Yeah. Maybe a little bit more provocative, just to be creative, right? And to make the podcast exciting. Worst case, AI will fake the heck out of everything. Do you see a future where we cannot onboard people online anymore? Where we physically had to go to the branch, then we saw the KYC, AML stuff running in the background. Then Revolut grew to 100 million customers because of these new technologies that enable them to scale that fast. No physical dependency. Yeah. Is there a worldview, maybe 10% risk, 20, 30% risk, like that we have to stop this?
So I put it as it's inevitable that you're going towards a world that it's very easy to fake. So those tools are obsolete today. It's not in the future. They're obsolete.
Yeah.
So you need to come up with something that is considered or accepted.
But it's already a very strong statement, right?
It's a big statement.
You say they're obsolete. Okay,
Those tools
interesting.
are obsolete.
So the whole thing is obsolete.
The tools you use today for signal detection at onboarding or even document verification.
So they show the passport, show my passport, scan it, etc.
And I tell you why it's obsolete. It's not accepted for any formal documents at country level.
No, not at country level, but at bank level. This is how we this is the state of the art on how we do onboarding.
If the problem of deepfakes and regulations say, central bank goes on one bank, pick one, and says you have 20% of fake accounts, I'm shutting you down. They'll react. Is there a likelihood that happens? I think so. So does that mean we go back to physical, you or you? Probably not. I mean, I hope, and my belief is we will come up with because we're very creative. We'll come up with a way to say this is a token. Yeah. That is me.
Okay, who's going to create the token? There must be a central token organizer.
My view...
So in Europe, people then think immediately government. And
this is the European in me.
All right.
It needs to be somewhat trusted by everyone.
Somewhat.
But nobody trusts the government.
I'm not saying centralized.
Fair enough. Okay.
So the beauty
but we need to have. But how is that platform? Let's leave it in the middle if it's government or private market. But that entity, how do you really?
I give an example.
Get trust.
There's some examples where we've created trust. Think about today, when the internet was being created.
Yeah.
You had these things with IP addresses and domain name servers, right? You go to type in www.google.com and it goes to those systems. If you understand them, there's actually about 6 in the world. They're controlled, they're maintained by a very small group of people.
Yeah,
they're not governments.
No.
What's the equivalent in this world? I don't know. Now, I think the other question is, will governments abdicate of doing that? I don't think they will. Because it's akin to, if you're talking about a digital fingerprint of you, that when you uniquely identifies you, well, there's a name for that. It's a passport. Will central entities abdicate that? I don't think so.
No, but you need to how do you connect that physical person with that physical passport, and how do you connect that for sure, 100% guaranteed to a digital token?
You see initiatives out there with Orb and WorldCoin and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be an evolution of something like that, right?
Interesting.
Who's going to own it? Who's going to maintain it? Are they going to be interoperable?
Yeah, but the fact is we cannot rely on voice or video moving forward.
Forget it.
It's basically for the old channels. That's the conclusion.
Yeah. You'll have to come up with other fingerprinting mechanisms that uniquely.
Maybe I'm mixing up things, but one of our clients is in Saudi Arabia. Onboarding is very different because they don't need to do all the steps. You just need to authenticate with the government ID.
Yep.
Imagine that would be a token.
Singapore is the same. Yeah.
Same thing, right? That is like.
The question
is that watertight? Is that future-proof or not?
It is, and technically, it's not impenetrable. But it's hard.
Yeah,
because it's about.
Of course. Okay,
so with fraudsters, I think we need to keep in mind is just make it harder.
Yeah.
It's not make it impossible, but make it hard so that they're gonna go elsewhere.
Yeah.
That's just the
nature
of the
they will
business.
pick the weaker.
They're gonna go elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, what I've seen is at small scale.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best example, in some of the Middle East countries, Singapore is a good example.
Yeah.
Where the centralized thing works.
Yeah.
And people, more importantly than work, is people trust it.
Yeah.
Because it's a trust thing, right? For instance, in Europe, would we do it at Central European level? I don't know, right? I mean, in North America, I mean, they tend to be a lot more loosely or loose in the way they identify, right? I mean, you can travel with your state driver's license, and half of the population, I don't know if it's half, don't have a passport. So there's really no central record of who are you as an individual.
Yeah.
If there all of a sudden there's a mandate from the federal government to say everyone needs to queue up so that we do, not sure if that would be very popular. But I think that inevitably it's going to have, because it's not going to be passwords and challenges and second factor authentications and whatnot. I think that's all infancy of something to come. But I don't have a crystal ball.
No, clear.
We'll bring you back in 6 to 12 months and see where we are.
Yeah, we're gonna compare notes.
That'd be cool.
I mean, honestly, it goes incredibly fast, right?
Yeah.
Up until 2-3 months ago, we didn't even talk about agentic yet.
Yeah.
It was just, nascent and coming up, and by now you see an explosion.
Yeah.
It's also on top of the hype cycle in Gartner, so it'll probably be disappointing in some regards, but
Maybe one more then, and I'm not sure if this is your field of expertise, so maybe just you figure out if you feel comfortable, but what are banks going to do with these factories where they have thousands of people working in operations because they had to be compliant and secure, etc., etc.?
So I have a lot of conversations with, it's fashion. How do I replace cost, that is people, with agents? Today, so there's what the technology promises. You mentioned the hype cycle. There is where we are today, and there's what, a thesis of what could be. Today, I am yet to see large-scale deployments with very clear ROIs of, I had 1,000 people, now I do it with a server. There's a lot of attempts, there's a lot of initiatives. I see some companies going forward, some companies going backward. There's which is natural when technologies are, nascent. Probably the best example, we ourselves are users of a lot of these technologies. And there's clearly some sort of an hype cycle. For instance, in developers, everyone loves some of the tools out there. They give you an immediate boost. Does that transform itself into long-term productivity? Potentially. I see different signals. I'm not saying they don't or they do, but I definitely see different signals. In the what I would see would be the use case in our world. It would be the relationship with the customer, the interaction. Call it, customer call center, or when there's a fraudulent event, resolving that. There, I think there's ample opportunity. I still feel people are testing it out or understanding. I think we're all making a mistake in one follow.
What is the mistake?
We're not taking into account the true cost of these technologies. These technologies are very expensive.
What do you base it on?
They're today being heavily subsidized, which is okay. That's how you start the market. And if if Moore's law tends to,
I would say that's the Silicon Valley law. Don't worry about these token costs.
The price comes down, potentially. Maybe, and now being a bit of a contrarian, maybe being too much of an engineer, I cannot yet correlate the cost coming down on a unit economics basis that allows us to, to give you an idea. We built a tool, a very interesting one, that actually calls out to different agentic type model providers, and for the same level of accuracy, in some cases the cost can be a 100x more. and this is dynamic. This is changing every day.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually, and I know of other companies that did the same, that provide a service.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not the builders of
Yeah.
the model or of the underlying technology. They use one of the many providers out there, and the cost is very wild.
Yeah, so that's today. Do you see the impact? Like, what's your view then on a little bit kind of counter view and how you anticipate that? Lighter models that going to run on the edge. So they're going to run on Android, they're going to run on iOS.
So that's what we're putting a lot.
Open source models, you can run them yourself. So like over time, if let's say the cost factor is there, everybody's aware, people are working again to solve it.
Yep. So what we will see, so we've done a lot of research in that area as well. Kind of like, okay, let's embed the model. Let's actually embed.
Yeah.
The challenge is it works and we have interesting results, but we haven't yet been able to demonstrate it at scale for what we do. I'm not saying for other purposes. That's not the case. And this is one of those, when I mention it, even to my board, sometimes it sounds a bit contrarian, and I tell them, look, maybe we know too much. We have a team of about 50 people who only do dedicated AI, machine learning research, and what I mean is creation.
Yeah.
They understand. They don't use those models. They understand how they're built. They could actually be building versions of that, and we do in some areas. And what I'm hearing is we're still years away from something that can be deployed at balancing cost with predictability, because that's one of the challenges, is can you deliver at a systematic audit in our world, auditable pace. So in other areas, like if you want to make a video as an example for this podcast, there I would see wildfire type of adoption.
Sure.
Interesting. You say hey, in your domain, which is super data intensive, and you have to do it at a massive scale. That's the context of where you place. What I see maybe is to compare notes. Our let's say strategy consultants now map out, let's say, end-to-end journeys for customers. And it's basically, let's not talk about technology or fraud, but just hey, what's your primary process and where's the friction and how to do that. What is happening now in the last 6 months, they not only map out the process and the ROI, but they map out all the different tasks done by human beings, and they rate the tasks, how much, you basically, I now see recommendations 20 different types of agents. Just one agent fixing one thing, and these agents are very feasible. So that's not rocket science to compare what you do.
Exactly. So in tasks where humans already do a fair amount of variability,
fair enough.
Perfect use case. The only then restriction will be can you fit it in a cost envelope that is predictable.
We'll see.
But
that goes back to these thousands of people in operations, right? What are they doing? Those are human tasks. People reading documents, checking documents, in the case manager, no, already augmented by your technologies, other technologies. So that I would say that technology augmentation or agentic augmentation probably will go up a lot.
No doubt. I see a similar trend as you've seen, for instance, with cloud adoption. Right? It started... And then all of a sudden became what it is today, massive. But then you see, my biggest cost is cloud costs. And you see somewhat the pendulum swinging.
Let's go back.
Which happens
to a degree,
right? Or let's go multi-cloud because I need to arbitrage.
With software companies, it's probably also with larger enterprises, right?
That's exactly it. So that's why I'm saying the technology, phenomenal for some use cases, and it will be massively adopted. It's not the silver bullet for all the use cases, for all the problems, which typically in Gartner's hype curve tends to be at some point when something is being hyped, this is going to solve everything. It will solve many problems.
What I really like about the discussion here is it is very much use case based, right? Because we typically hear conversations or see materials out there that are just, agentic AI is going to solve everything for everyone. Although it's a very specific type of technology for a specific subset of use cases, where typically, and that's also what we're seeing in Backbase, it is for a full process to onboard, maybe a few steps actually are valuable steps where agentic AI can make an impact. There's also processes where it makes no impact, and we don't even need it, and it's just regular process automation. I think that's also interesting.
I would almost see it the other way around, if I can take I think with compute we were able to kind of do deterministic logic to a certain degree, so call it workflows, whatever, and then if we were lucky we could do SDP, right, and then it's done. There's no human. But then it stops, and then you get the human. So I think that's the next frontier. If I think about workflow management, I think about the case manager. We have millions of people every day. They wake up, you activate your workbench, and what it basically is, it's a case manager with a bunch of cases and tasks. And that's I'm actually slightly even concerned about about society impact, because there's so much white collar work, also especially in these operation departments. So, and that's the irony is that work is not really hard, but you are not able to capture it with deterministic business logic. But with a model, you can.
Exactly
you can. And even if it's kind of at an 80 or 90% accuracy, it would already reduce a lot of work from hours into whoop. And then you still have the super user, of course, and you've got the supervisor and the conductor. But you don't need 2,000 of them, right? You need 200 of them. So I think that is pretty. If you look at operational efficiency, that is huge.
So that's
and empower that with stuff like your technologies and others, and and even imagine we would combine our data sets about everything, the transactional, the behavioral, open banking data. You combine that with your data set. Ultimately, we're going to see, I think, a few master data sets, and then on top of that, you've got agents to protect, to upsell, to coach, to advise.
I'll give you an example where we've seen a massive help by using those type of agents. It's clearly not, as I was describing, not in the determination if this is bad actor or not. But when supporting a human. Or in any case a bot calling you. I can augment and reduce all the humans to the best analyst in the world. Why?
You can augment them.
Because the best analyst in the world intuitively looks at dashboards, and he or she knows based on experience and okay, this correlates with that. It's really hard, because you mentioned something interesting. It's really hard to capture that in a deterministic way.
You can.
But in an approximation way, or using this type of technique, you can say this is correlation. So I can actually prepare. What we do very concretely is, as there is a conversation going on, we prepare the script and we retune the script based on the data that we have, 40%, 30%, less transaction, but with a descriptive approach based on what a human would do. This is where I see massive augmentation.
Of course.
100%.
Of course.
Right? But I will caveat with saying I haven't seen yet rolled out in production.
We have to go to the whole hype, Gartner, but clear. Okay, but that's the way we have to work through, and eventually I don't think you have any doubt that it's going to happen.
No. And we're pushing for it.
And you should push for it, right?
We're pushing for it. We're putting it out there, and we have today thousands of analysts using it. But I mean, by no means advocating.
No, but these analysts are also yet another, let's say, persona, another actor in a bank with a set of activities, and you turbocharge them to a 10x level, right? And that's going to happen with the loan underwriter, the wealth management relationship manager, the advisor.
The way we put it is, we'll make all analysts as good as your best analyst. Which
that's
to me,
basically supercharge those roles.
Supercharge 10x. That's
and then move people to, frankly. I'm less pessimistic in terms of it. I think that would allow people to move to more interesting other type of activities out there.
Okay, then the final stretch, and now it goes non-banking, non-fraud, but what does it mean for society in 10 years? There's of course all sorts of scenarios, positive scenarios, negative scenarios. If there's so many, let's say, the best analyst and the best relationship manager, it basically means, do you think it could lead to very significant unemployment? And then where people from blue collar go to white collar in the past, we've seen all these transitions. They went from agricultural into factories, into white collar work, etc. And then it's all accelerated. Basically, I think the whole SaaS movement was basically to kind of create task lists for people in the cloud. That's Gmail. That's whatever HR. Like it's just basically one big task list, and it's a $1 trillion industry. That task list is basically gonna hollow out because all these task workers, and I think we're now talking about 1 billion people doing that every day. Let's say out of the billion, we need 100 million only.
Yep.
So then we have 900 people on holiday. The first week they are happy, and then.
I mean, the way I look at these things is, I think everyone has given some thought in some way, form, or fashion to that.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is, well, as a group of, as a species, what we're really good at one thing, adaptability.
Yeah.
We adapt to whatever new circumstances, and we make it a new norm. Will we all be on holiday? Probably not. Will we find the same way when we move from agriculture, where you had 30-40% of people working on farming? Today you have 2% or something or less.
Exactly.
So I wonder, what lessons we take from industry for those 30 people that were going to be unemployed. They moved on to something else. Now, what does that something else look like? I'll give an example. If we go to younger generations, there's an entire, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm just saying it is, a world of consumption of data, of media, or creation of data, of media, that before would take very specialized, people and very curated content. Today, you have all this content, you might like or not, but there's all this content for all domains being created at a speed that we didn't have 10 years ago. 20 years ago, we didn't have. Now, is everyone going to be creating content? No.
How many influencers do we need? Right?
Of course. But but could we actually have foreseen all this content creation and influencers in the 90s before YouTube? Probably couldn't. Or before Instagram.
No, but then let's continue that. Like, okay, we don't know exactly how that's going to look like, but then let's look at the other impact. Like, normally would have a lot of labor. That labor would then maybe disappear, and they're going to make content. But like, do you get paid for it? Maybe not. What does it mean for income tax to the state? Right? Okay, then that would go down. What does it mean for the budget? The income of Google, OpenAI, etc., will go up. So are we going to charge and tax these guys so we have a base income? Like those are the
Well, one thing governments are good is finding way of taxing people.
That's what they do. Let's close with that. That is really a good outlook, man.
That is a good outlook.
I'm sure they'll find a way. Because coming from a country that doesn't produce cars, for instance, they tax all the cars because it's money going out of the country, and they tax it massively. Germany doesn't like that.
No, of course, no, we should.
So.
Similar like the US now.
Right, similar like the US. So I think it's change. What does that mean? I don't know, but I think it's fun.
We're going to compare notes in 12 months.
It's exciting times. It's exciting times. Now, before we wrap up and I go to my key takeaway, is there one, let's say, major learning that you could share with any ambitious leaders out there that are currently listening in when it comes to driving change, like transformational change that we basically spent the majority of the episode on? And keep it simple, like something they can actually bring to life starting.
What I see correlating with success, from my perspective, is define a plan, but stick to it as you go through. Don't, learn as you go.
Yeah.
I see way too many strategic plans, initiatives. Someone just moves, they drop it, they don't see it to fruition. Be it a company, a startup, be it in your personal journey, be it in a transformation initiative in a bank, see it to fruition. It takes years for these things to happen. See it to fruition. What I observe that correlates with success or not, be it in a company, be it in your personal life, be it in financial institutions, is people start something, there's all this excitement, we're gonna do this, and then halfway through it, or during the journey, they're like, oh, too hard, and then people find all fancy justifications. Stick to it. Resilience, stick to it, see it to fruition.
Wonderful.
Great.
That concludes it for today, everyone. Thanks for listening in. maybe as a final reminder of one thing that at least stood out to me, Nuno, and it actually connects to the last statement that you made. You typically tend to work best with ambitious leaders, those that actually have a big vision and want to drive it multi-year. And you made 3 points that I just want to highlight because I think it resonates with the audience once more. Have a thesis, have a vision, commit to it. It's a multi-year journey, like you just shared, and then execute ruthlessly.
Yep.
I think in all the experience that also we have over the past decade and longer, it is just very challenging to obtain that dream scenario that we're discussing here. Like it's very easy and very logical. It's hard work. It needs deep commitment and deep drive. Yeah. And then overall, we talked a little bit about the future state of how you see the business and the ecosystem that you operate in, specifically holistic cybersecurity and risk management coming together in one single view, so you can really understand your operation and fight the, let's say, AI wave that's now exponentially making the fraud higher and more intense and more advanced. I think that was the main part of the discussion. Yep. We also talked a little bit about what does the future look like, and we had a bit of a philosophy going on here. Let's check in 12 months. Jouk, any final things you would like to share?
Yeah, maybe one thing. What I really like, Nuno, is also, and it's applicable for, I think, leaders like Nuno, but also for banking leaders especially. What is the group of people that are going to disrupt yourself? It's basically, I think it's the innovator's dilemma. I think that you were opening with that. You say, like, I do have a group. They are looking... and I think that's for everybody in the audience. I think like that is kind of how you, that's evolution. That is how you, as software companies need to survive in this AI transformation. Banks need to do so. I think the rules of the game are changing at a pace and at a depth that is unseen in history. Yeah. So that means for every leader, like you don't have the luxury that these things will take slow motion type of 15 years. I think we're now going to see a 3x acceleration of pretty much everything, maybe even more in fraud, in fake identities, in how to run a bank. So I think it probably requires a very open mindset about that what is going to disrupt us and then how to embrace it.
Exactly.
So exciting times.
Exciting times. Nuno, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Yep.
It's been a fun conversation.
Absolutely.
Jouk, thanks for joining, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great. Cheers.
Awesome.